What's up, witches? My name is Taylor, and I'm the Tempest Witch, and today we're doing the second episode of Witchtok Reacts. So, people were doing No Nuance November throughout the month of November, and there were some very hot takes, which was great. But what I found particularly interesting was the No Nuance November Witchtok edition. So I felt like I should save some of those and share some of what I found with you. And I'm sure there were more, but these are ones that I happened across either on my For You page or from my mutuals or whomever. And some of them are good. Some of them, And I figured we would just talk about them because without no nuance, without nuance, things can get interesting. So I'm here to create some nuance. So let's begin.
Witchtok is doing No Nuance November, so here's my hot take. I don't care that people are getting into witchcraft because it's trendy. I just don't. As long as they're not like doing close practices or spreading misinformation, they're literally not hurting anyone. So what if people are buying crystals for the aesthetic? They're pretty. If that's not aesthetically pleasing, I don't know what is. I'd say like a majority of modern witches probably started doing it because they thought it looked cool, and that's totally valid. We all have to start somewhere. So enough with this superiority complex.
I've seen a lot of discourse about this, how people are like, oh my god, people are just getting into witchcraft because it's new and trendy. And like, who gives a shit? Like, yeah, it is trendy, and that's fine. But a majority of people who are going to get into it, dabble in it, aren't doing the work to be able to actually do anything of significance. So it's not a big deal. If they practice witchcraft for 2 months, realize that it's not their thing, but later on they stick to color aesthetics because they resonated with the color yellow and that brings them joy, it's fine. It does no harm to the world. It takes a significant amount of time, discipline, and patience to study magic in any discipline because there are a million paths to follow. And then you just forge your own. So whatever you learn becomes your practice, and that's fine. And you can learn about things as you go and then realize, that's not really for me. It's interesting, but for such and such reason, I'm not gonna follow that path and I'm gonna continue on my way. That's fine. If they dabble in magic for a few weeks, it helps open their eyes a little bit to the world around them being not as it seems, and then they move forward. And that's fine, because they'll take those experiences with them. They'll take that knowledge with them. So it might be trendy and cool and whatever, but it's not harming anyone. Most baby witches, from what I've seen, are putting things in jars and going, here's a spell. It's cute. Let them have their fun. It's fine. If you're being blatantly obvious, just be awful and either appropriating or just being a dick, sharing misinformation because you're like, nothing matters, intention is everything, like, then we have a problem. But if you're just dabbling or getting into things because you think it's trendy and you might as well, fuck it. Have your fun. That's fine. Anyway, next one.
Oh look. It's my second year of No Nuance November on Witchtok. There you go. Death is not a bad word. Not every entity requires a banishment. Not every weird thing is an entity, on that note. Everything is beginner friendly if you're ballsy enough. Fuck around and find out. You're not entitled to anybody else's practice. Learn the hard way. Witchcraft is not one size fits all. You're never as powerful as you think you are. You still have to take your medications even with witchcraft. Shadow work is not an absolute replacement for therapy. Cryptids are not your friends. Mediums are not your personal telephones. If you have to ask a death witch if you're a death witch, you're not. If you have to ask somebody if you're familiar is actually familiar, it's not. Blood magic doesn't have to be terrifying. Blow out your fucking candles. On the note of candles, they can come from literally fucking anywhere. Example A. I repeat, fuck around and find out.
I love Cranky, like, so much. If you're not following them, please do. Everything is just so good. But so many things were said in that video, so let's just kind of touch on a few. Cranky is a death witch, so a lot of what they said is from personal experience, and one of the things that I've learned about death witches is you just kind of have to deal with a lot of shit all the time, because death is just a common occurrence that you have to interact with in all of its forms. And so you just kind of fuck around and find out. And I think that that should be more readily acceptable in the witchcraft community. Like, everything is learn protection, do all these things. And it's like, that's great. And obviously do your research before you do anything ridiculous. But like, if you're trying to spell going, would this work as a substitute? Let's find out. Like, kind of have a good idea of what it'll do beforehand, but you'll never know until you try. So obviously don't do anything ridiculously stupid, but if you fuck around, you're gonna find out. Also, so many people are like, you cannot extinguish your candles by blowing them out, otherwise it blows away your intention. And I think that's fun, because then you have to buy a candle snuffer or just things. You have to buy more things. My deity candles, when I blow them out for the night, I blow them out and I just say, good night, allesamen, and then that's the end of it. It's not, I'm blowing it out going, I'm so sorry that I have to extinguish your candle. It's like, nah, man, I'm trying not to burn my house down, but have a good night. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It's fine. It's not gonna blow away your intention. Ridiculous. And there were a lot of other things in that video, but hard agree. Just love Cranky. Anyway, next one.
No Nuance November, these are my witchy hot takes. Number 1, you don't have to do a spell for protection. Number 2, not everything you see is a sign. Number 3, this one's gonna make y'all mad. Old-fashioned witchcraft did not focus on the environment. Not everything was environmentally friendly. Number 4, if you can't Google, don't practice. Number 5, witchcraft can be done by anyone, but is not meant for everyone. Number 6, rosemary cannot be used in place for any ingredient. Number 7, TikTok is not a fucking source. There's way too many Witchtok witches who are not real, and you guys are very easy to find. Number 8, a real witch doesn't need to prove that they are a real witch. Number 6, the entitlement on this app is real. Those of you getting mad at people telling you to research shouldn't practice. Because if you can't research, you can't practice. And last but not least, if you can't do the 1, 2, 3, 4 of protection, don't worry about anything else.
Again, a lot of things. Where do I even start? Let's just go in order. Let's just go in order.
Once November, these are my witchy hot takes. Number 1, you don't have to do a spell for protection.
We did a video on wards, learn about banishment, do all of the things. Having wards set up in your house negates the need for protection spells constantly, because I see some people who just, that's all they're doing. It's a protection spell to protect, like, do you think that many things are coming after you? What are you fucking around with? Use good judgment. It'll be fine. Next one.
Number 2, not everything you see is a sign.
Obviously. Some people, I'm guilty of this at times, and I'm like, that seems, we're gonna keep that in mind. Because signs will be very apparent. They'll be very loud. They'll often be repeated several times to be like, hey, pay attention to this. But if it's a one-off and it's very casual and it just kind of like a bird appears, or you see a butterfly and it doesn't haul up deep emotions in you, it's not a sign. It's fine. It's just the world is chaos around us. It's okay to enjoy them, but don't take it as, that's my great dead aunt sending me a sign from the afterlife that she's okay. Unless you specifically talked to your great aunt before she died that she was gonna come back as a butterfly, it's just a butterfly. Sorry to crush your bubble. This is why you talk to people before they die, to ask, hey, how are you coming back to show me signs? Numbers, animals, weather changes. Things like that. Things to talk about. Next one.
Number 3, this one's gonna make y'all mad. Old-fashioned witchcraft did not focus on the environment. not everything was environmentally friendly.
This goes along with the idea of using what's around you. Obviously, I have a very large apothecary and I use a multitude of herbs quite regularly. But if I had to just work with what I had, I could do that, and that's fine. I have access to extra tools, and so I will use extra tools. But if you're looking into old school witchcraft, like traditional witchcraft, it's a lot of gross shit. Like, you want to hex somebody? You're not getting a lemon in, the 1600s. You're not getting a lemon in the early 1800s. You use what's around you. So if you have fires going constantly, you can use burnt charcoal ash, you can use June bugs, you can use beetles, you can use field mice and all sorts of carcasses from kills to make death water. Like, there's so many things you can do, but you just gotta know what you're doing. And sometimes things are gross. Like car oil? Obviously that wouldn't have been a thing, you'd more heavily rely on like charcoal. But messy things, gross things, bodily fluids work wonders in magic. So don't be afraid to get a little messy.
Number 4, if you can't Google, don't practice.
Google is your friend, but can be your enemy, because anyone can post anything to Google. So make sure you are vetting your sources. Books are always preferred, but this is why I get so irritated having to repeat the same 5 questions on every witchcraft post I make. If you can't Google, you can't practice. If you cannot look up words that you found, like, hey, what is that word? It would take you 3 seconds to copy and paste to find out what that word is. It would help you mentally learn what that thing is, and then maybe take you down a rabbit hole to explore the thing. But if you can't do the basic things of looking up the stuff yourself, you can't practice. People cannot do the work for you. And I don't know about other witch talkers, but I get real fucking tired of people asking me basic ass shit that they could look up because they're not willing to do the work themselves. It makes me very tired, and so I've stopped doing it. I'll let you make the comments, because that boosts me in the algorithm, yay me, but I'm not gonna answer it. People in the comments might answer for you, good on them. I won't do it. If you're not willing to put in the time and the effort, you don't deserve to practice. Plain and simple. Anyway.
Number 5, witchcraft can be done by anyone, but is not meant for everyone.
Yes. Of course, there are a variety of different paths to take, but just some of y'all are out here wildin' for no good reason. Do the work, realize sometimes that something's not for you, and then move on. Don't make a big deal of it.
Number 6, rosemary cannot be used in place for any ingredient.
I love rosemary. Rosemary is one of my homies. I love it so much. But there's a lot of like Pinterest witchcraft tips that go around, like clear quartz can be used for anything, which it cannot. Clear quartz is super amplifying, so if you're trying to make something diminutive or a binding spell, there are better things that you can use that would be more appropriate for your intention. The same thing goes with, yeah, you can use white candles for anything, but it's like a multi-purpose cleaner. If you've got really bad tile scum, using a multi-purpose cleaner is going to make your work a lot harder than if you get some Tilex and a scrub brush and just go to town. Use the appropriate tools. Same thing goes for rosemary. Rosemary is very cleansing, very purifying, but if you're trying to make something dirty, if you're trying to make something very messy, you're trying to fuck some shit up, cleansing and purifying is not going to help you. Or if you're trying to do something that, like, rosemary is really good for mental clarity and, like, mental stimulation. If you're trying to fuck somebody's day up, rosemary's not gonna help you. Use the appropriate tools.
Number 7, TikTok is not a fucking source.
There is a lot of misinformation on TikTok, so just check things. A lot of people will say that, you know, they've been practicing for 40 years and then say some dumbass shit that's like, that's level 1, what are you talking about? And it's just for clout. Just be careful of who you listen to. And if you check somebody and then they go, my apologies, and they correct themselves, either because it was a mistake because they misspoke, or earworm, sometimes you say things and you're like, shit, that's not right. If they correct themselves, they're a much better legitimate teacher than someone who's like, well, that's just how I learned it, but they have no reason as to why this correlates with this correspondence is correct for this. Because people will have different interpretations, but be wary of those who are arrogant and unwavering.
Number 8, a real witch doesn't need to prove that they are a real witch.
I love when people are in my comments being like, could you show me a spell? Could you do this? I'm like, like Cranky said, no one is entitled to your practice. If I am willing to share things with you, that is something I am gifting you. But you cannot ask more of me if I'm not willing to give it. And people, because of the age of the internet, feel entitled to other people's time and energy. If someone is a content creator creating things like this for you, this is time and energy and effort. People will badger me for, I need to know this correspondence, I need to know how to do this, oh, my friend needs help with this, blah, 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 they fucked up and now they're trying to undo it. People get paid to do that. Be considerate. That is all.
Number 6, the entitlement on this
We're not going to talk about the fact that she went from 8 to 6. It's fine.
on this app is real. Those of you getting mad at people telling you to research shouldn't practice. Because if you
Can't research, you can't practice.
can't research, you can't practice. And last but not least, if you can't do the 1, 2, 3, 4 of protection, don't worry about anything else.
Do you know what the 1, 2, 3, 4 protection is? If you don't, look it up. I won't do the work for you. Anyway.
No Nuance November Witchtok edition. Just because it's not part of your practice, just because you don't believe in it, doesn't mean you get to dismiss it. Just because you don't believe it, just because your spiritual guide hasn't enlightened you, doesn't mean it's not the truth.
The truth is subjective in everything. Journalism, politics, magic. I try my best to respect what other people believe, and I can work it into my understanding of truth and reality. And if something doesn't align with you, that's totally fine as long as they are not hurting someone who doesn't deserve it. Quick, simple, to the point. I think we'll make this 2 parts. So I'm gonna end on that note and we'll come back for part 2. And I hope you liked this one, and I'll see you on the next one. Skull, my friends.